The message came on a cold winter morning in the year 2147. Every radio on Earth picked up the signal at the same time. Every television screen showed the same strange symbols. Every phone buzzed with the same alien sounds. Humanity was not alone in the universe, and someone out there had finally decided to say hello. Ambassador was only 32 years old when she became the first human to translate an alien language. She worked for 16 days without sleep, drinking cold coffee and staring at patterns that made no sense. But on the 17th day, she cracked the code. She stood before the United Earth Assembly with shaking hands and read the message aloud. Greetings, primitive species of the third planet. The Galaxy Council has observed your development with mild interest. You are hereby invited to send representatives to observe our proceedings. You will have no voice. You will have no vote. You will watch and learn from your betters. This is a great honor for creatures such as yourselves. The room fell silent. President gripped the edges of his podium. They call us primitive, he said slowly. They think we are nothing. Captain slammed his fist on the table. He was a tall man with fierce eyes and a soldier's heart. We should reject this insult. We should demand to be treated as equals or refuse to participate at all. But an old woman rose from her seat in the back. Her name was, and she had survived 3 wars and 2 famines. Her hair was white as snow, and her eyes held the wisdom of 90 years. Young Captain, she said, her voice soft but strong, let me tell you a story. The room turned to listen. When I was a child, my grandmother told me about a small stream near her village. This stream was nothing special. It made no noise. It caused no floods. The villagers ignored it completely. But over 100 years, that quiet little stream carved a path straight through a mountain. The loud rivers dried up. The powerful waterfalls crumbled. But the silent stream still flows today. She looked at Captain with knowing eyes. Let them call us primitive. Let them think we are weak. An enemy who underestimates you is an enemy already half defeated. President thought about her words for a long time. Finally, he nodded. We will accept their invitation. We will sit in their gallery. We will smile at their insults. And we will watch. We will learn. We will wait. And so began humanity's 300 years of silence. The first human delegation arrived at the Galaxy Council Station in 2148. The station was massive, larger than Earth's moon, floating in the space between stars. 12 species sat in the great chamber, each one older than human civilization, each one convinced of their own superiority. The humans were given seats in the back, in a small gallery with poor lighting and uncomfortable chairs. They were not introduced. They were not welcomed. They were simply there like furniture that nobody noticed. Representative Minu led the first delegation. He was a patient man, a former teacher who understood that learning sometimes required swallowing pride. He sat in his uncomfortable chair and watched the council debate trade routes and territory. He smiled politely when the alien delegates made jokes about the silent pets in the gallery. He took careful notes on everything he saw. When he returned to Earth, he did not speak of his humiliation. Instead, he presented his observations to a secret committee. Their technology is advanced, he reported, but not impossible to understand. Their military is strong, but they have grown lazy with no real enemies. Their security is laughable because they truly believe no one would dare challenge them. The committee listened, and they began to plan. In the asteroid belts far from Earth, construction began on secret shipyards. Doctor, a brilliant young physicist, led a team of scientists working on new engine designs. The council uses fusion drives, she explained to her team. They are powerful but slow. We will build something better. We will fold space itself. General trained soldiers in hidden bases on Mars and Europa. He taught them to fight in zero gravity, to survive in vacuum, to strike fast and disappear. The galaxy thinks humans are soft, he told his troops. They think we are too gentle for war. We will prove them wrong, but only when the time is right. Back on the council station, human delegates continued their quiet observation. Every year, new representatives took their seats in the gallery. Every year, they endured the same jokes, the same dismissals, the same contempt. The insect-like species called them crawlers. The tall reptilian ones called them meat. The crystalline beings did not even acknowledge their existence. But the humans kept smiling. They kept watching. They kept taking notes. Young joined the delegation in 2389. She was brilliant and beautiful with sharp eyes that missed nothing. The council members found her amusing. "Look at the new pet," High Arbiter said, his wings buzzing with laughter. "She almost looks intelligent." Bowed her head respectfully. "You honor me with your attention, High Arbiter." Laughed louder. "See how polite they are, like trained animals." That night transmitted detailed scans of the council's security systems back to Earth. She had hidden the scanner in her hairpin. 250 years had passed. The human fleet now numbered in the thousands. The quantum-fold engines worked perfectly. The weapons were beyond anything the council possessed. But still Earth waited. Still, the delegates smiled and nodded and endured their humiliation. Because Elder had been right. The silent stream was almost through the mountain. And soon, very soon, the galaxy would learn what patience truly meant. The 847th session of the Galaxy Council began on what humans would call a Tuesday morning. Representative took her usual seat in the observation gallery. She had served on the council station for 15 years now, longer than any human before her. The alien delegates had grown so used to her presence that they barely noticed her anymore. She was like a piece of furniture, something that existed in the background without meaning. Beside her sat Lieutenant, a young officer with a calm face and quick mind. He pretended to read a book while his neural implant recorded every conversation in the chamber below. The council's security scanners could not detect the device. Human technology had surpassed theirs decades ago, but the council did not know this. "Another boring session," whispered. "Trade disputes in the outer rim." Nodded slightly. "Stay alert. High Arbiter has been acting strangely lately. My sources say he is planning something." Below them, the great chamber filled with delegates from 12 species. The insect-like Dominion held the most power, their High Arbiter serving as council leader. His wings were golden, and his compound eyes reflected everything around him like mirrors. He had ruled the council for 200 years and believed himself invincible. The reptilians sat in the military section, their scales gleaming under the chamber lights. The crystalline floated in special gravity bubbles, their bodies chiming softly when they moved. The aquatics swam in transparent water tanks, their translator devices turning bubbles into words. And in the back, ignored as always, sat the humans. Called the session to order with a sharp click of his mandibles. "We have many matters to discuss today," he announced. "But first, I wish to address something that has troubled me for some time." The chamber fell silent, rarely spoke of personal concerns. "For 300 years, we have allowed a primitive species to observe our proceedings." His compound eyes turned toward the human gallery. "They sit in their little seats. They smile their little smiles. They contribute nothing of value." Felt her stomach tighten, but her face remained calm. "I have studied there," continued. "It is rich in resources we need. Rare metals, fresh water, fertile soil. Yet these resources are wasted on creatures who cannot even achieve proper space travel without our guidance." The delegate hissed in agreement. "The humans are weak. They would make excellent laborers." Nodded his great head. "Exactly. Therefore, I propose a motion. Let us reclassify Earth as a harvest world. We will relocate its population to labor colonies across the galaxy. Their planet will serve a useful purpose at last." His heart pounded in her chest, but 300 years of training kept her expression neutral. Beside her, had stopped pretending to read. "They have sat in silence for 3 centuries, added, his wings buzzing with amusement. They smiled while we insulted them. They bowed while we mocked them. They are the most docile species we have ever encountered. They will not resist. The council voted. One by one, the delegates raised their appendages in agreement. The Dominion voted yes. The voted yes. The plant-like voted yes. Even the peaceful, who usually abstained from aggressive motions, voted yes. Only the hesitated. Ambassador Shimmering Tide floated in their tank, bubbles rising slowly around them. "I wonder," they said through their translator, "if we truly understand the humans as well as we think we do." Laughed, "What is there to understand? They are simple creatures, harmless, weak." Shimmering Tide said nothing more and cast no vote. The motion passed, 11 species in favor, 1 abstention. Earth had been sentenced to death, and no one had bothered to ask her opinion. But then something happened that had never happened in 300 years of council history. Stood up. The movement was slow and deliberate. Every eye in the chamber, every sensor, every camera turned to focus on her. Human observers did not stand. Human observers did not speak. Human observers existed only to watch. Wings stopped buzzing. The observer rises, how unusual. Walked to the railing of the gallery. Her footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. She looked down at the council with eyes that held no fear, no submission, no weakness. "High Arbiter," she said, and her voice carried clearly through the chamber, "you have made a terrible mistake." Laughter rippled through the delegates. A human speaking back to the council. The idea was absurd. What mistake could a primitive creature possibly identify? Asked, his mandibles clicking with amusement. Smiled, but it was not the polite smile the council had seen for 300 years. This smile was different. This smile was dangerous. "You assumed our silence meant we were weak," she said. "You assumed our patience meant we were afraid. You assumed 3 centuries of observation meant we were learning to be like you." She reached into her pocket and removed a small device. It looked harmless, no larger than a coin. But when she pressed it, every light in the council station flickered and died. Emergency systems failed. Communication arrays went dark. The chamber was plunged into absolute blackness. And in that darkness, his voice continued, calm and cold. "We were never learning to be like you. We were learning how to destroy you." When the emergency lights finally activated, the delegates looked to the viewport and saw something that stopped their hearts. The stars had disappeared. Something vast and terrible had blocked them out. The human fleet had arrived. The council delegates pressed against the viewport like frightened children. Outside, where empty space should have been, ships filled the darkness. Not dozens, not hundreds. Thousands upon thousands of human vessels hung in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with weapons that council scientists had never seen before. Each ship was beautiful and terrifying, built with technology that should not have existed. At the center of the fleet floated a vessel so massive that it made the council station look like a toy. The name painted on its side was written in human script that the council's translators could not read, but the humans in the gallery knew it well. The humanity's flagship, the pride of Earth. High Arbiter stared at the fleet with his compound eyes, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. "This is impossible," he whispered. "They had nothing, no ships, no weapons, nothing." The main screen in the chamber flickered to life. A human face appeared, belonging to a man with silver hair and calm eyes. He wore a military uniform covered in medals that meant nothing to the council but everything to Earth. Admiral spoke in perfect council common, the language the humans had supposedly never learned. "For 300 years, you called us primitive. Your delegates laughed at our representatives. Your children were taught that humans were foolish creatures barely worth noticing. You assumed we were simple because we chose to be silent." His voice was not angry, it was not threatening, it was simply stating facts. "While your diplomats mocked our delegates, Our engineers were studying your technology. While your security guards ignored us, our intelligence officers were mapping your military positions. While you taught your children that humans were inferior, our scientists were building weapons you cannot imagine. The screen showed images of human shipyards hidden in asteroid belts, factories on distant moons, training facilities deep underground on Mars. Generations of humans had worked in secret, preparing for this moment. Every delegate we sent was carefully chosen, Admiral continued. Scientists who memorized your technology, soldiers who studied your tactics, spies who learned your weaknesses. You invited us into your halls because you thought we were too stupid to be dangerous. That was your greatest error. In the council chamber, the military commander reached for his weapon. Instantly, his scales began to spark with electricity. He collapsed to the ground, convulsing. Every weapon in the chamber had been remotely disabled. "Please do not resist," Admiral said. "We have complete control of your station systems. Your weapons are offline. Your shields are down. Your communications are blocked. We have been inside your networks for over 100 years." Found his voice. "What do you want?" he demanded, trying to sound powerful but failing completely. We want nothing that belongs to you." The Admiral's expression remained calm. "We do not seek conquest. We do not desire your worlds. We are not like you." He leaned forward slightly. "But we will no longer tolerate being treated as lesser beings. The harvest world motion is cancelled. Earth is not your resource. Humanity is not your labor force. And if any species attempts to threaten our people again, you will face the full power of what we built while you were busy laughing at us." The screen changed to show a tactical map of the galaxy. Red dots appeared above every council. Each dot represented a human fleet positioned and waiting. "We are everywhere," Admiral said simply. "We have been moving into position for 50 years. You never noticed because you never looked. Why would the mighty council watch the movements of primitive creatures?" The delegate, a tall plant-like being with leaves instead of hair, began to shake. They whispered. "There are ships above our." "Above every," the Admiral confirmed. "Not to attack. We have no wish to harm innocent civilians, but to remind you that your safety depends on our choice to remain peaceful." He stood back. "You have one solar cycle to formally recognize humanity as an equal sovereign power, full voting rights in the council, full trading privileges, full diplomatic respect. This is not a request. This is a statement of new reality." Wings began to buzz with fury. "You threaten us. You dare to threaten the Galaxy Council." "Threaten?" Admiral shook his head. "No, High Arbiter. We are simply correcting a misunderstanding. For 300 years, you believed we were harmless because we did not harm you. You believed we were weak because we did not fight you. You believed we were stupid because we did not argue with you." His eyes grew cold. "We were none of those things. We were patient, and now our patience has ended." The screen went dark. In the silence that followed, Ambassador Shimmering Tide of the released a stream of bubbles that their translator converted to gentle laughter. "I tried to tell you," they said to no one in particular. "I always wondered why the humans smiled so much when you insulted them. Now I understand. They were not smiling because they were happy. They were smiling because they knew something we did not." Turned on the ambassador with rage in his eyes. "You knew about this." "I knew nothing," Shimmering Tide replied calmly. "But I am old enough to know that silence is not always weakness. Sometimes it is the predator waiting in the deep water." They turned their attention to, who still stood at the gallery railing, watching the chaos below. "Well played, human," Shimmering Tide said. "Well played indeed." Bowed her head respectfully. It was the same bow she had given for 15 years. But now, everyone understood its true meaning. It had never been submission. It had been confidence. The Galaxy Council was divided for the first time in 500 years. 3 species voted immediately to accept humanity's terms. They had always respected creatures who could surprise them. Whose crystalline minds valued strategy above all else recognized brilliance when they saw it. And the tiny, who remembered their own days of being dismissed as insignificant, felt a strange kinship with the humans. But High Arbiter refused to surrender. "This is a trick," he insisted, his wings beating so fast they blurred. "They cannot possibly have developed this technology alone. Someone must be helping them. Someone must be behind this." The military commander, still recovering from his earlier shock, nodded his scaled head in agreement. "We should attack. Call all our fleets together. Crush them before they can strike." Admiral's face appeared on the screen again. "We can hear you," he said calmly. "Every word you say is being transmitted to our command center. Perhaps you should discuss your battle plans somewhere more private." "Oh, wait," he smiled slightly. "There is nowhere more private. We are in all your systems." Slammed his appendages on his podium. "You will pay for this arrogance, human." "Perhaps, but not today." The screen went dark again. Above the Dominion, Commander sat on the bridge of the assault carrier. She was a small woman with a gentle face that hid a warrior's heart. Her crew of 2,000 worked silently around her, monitoring every movement of the Dominion fleet. "Commander," reported Ensign, "the Dominion is mobilizing. 200 warships are moving to intercept our position." Nodded calmly. "Let them come, they need to learn." "Should we power weapons, Commander?" "No," his voice was soft but certain. "We will not fire unless fired upon. Activate the veil instead." The veil was humanity's greatest achievement in stealth technology. It did not simply hide ships from sensors. It made them invisible to every form of detection the galaxy had ever developed. When activated, human ships became ghosts, present but unseen, deadly but silent. The Dominion fleet arrived at full battle speed. Their admiral, a massive creature named, commanded from the flagship Eternal Dominance. He had won 30 battles in his long career and feared nothing in the galaxy. "Where are they?" demanded. "Sensors showed human ships here." His officers checked their equipment. "Nothing, Admiral. Space is empty." "Impossible. They were here. I saw them myself." But the sensors showed only stars and void. The human fleet had vanished. And then, one by one, systems on the Dominion ships began to fail. Weapons went offline. Engines died. Life support flickered. Communication arrays filled with static. The mighty fleet of 200 warships drifted helplessly in space, completely disabled. A message appeared on every screen: "Stand down." Roared with fury, but there was nothing he could do. His ships were dead in the water, disabled by an enemy he could not see or fight. When technicians finally restored basic sensors, they discovered human ships drifting among their formation, so close that weapons officers could have touched them with their bare hands. The humans had been there the entire time, watching, waiting, choosing not to destroy. On the council station, received word of his fleet's defeat. "How many casualties?" he asked, his voice hollow. "None," his aide reported. "They disabled our ships completely. They could have killed everyone aboard, but they did not fire a single weapon." Sat heavily on his throne. For the first time in 200 years, he felt something he had forgotten existed. Fear approached his throne. She walked slowly, deliberately, letting her footsteps echo in the silent chamber. Every delegate watched her. The small, polite observer who had smiled at their insults for 15 years now stood before the most powerful being in the galaxy. "High Arbiter," she said, "you once asked what mistake a primitive creature could possibly identify. Allow me to answer that question now." Said nothing, he could not. "Your mistake was believing that kindness meant weakness. Your mistake was thinking that patience meant fear. Your mistake was assuming that because we chose not to fight, we could not fight." She turned to address the entire council. For 300 years, every human who entered this chamber was a warrior. Scientists who could build weapons in their sleep. Soldiers who trained for combat every day. Spies who learned your secrets while you laughed at their simple smiles. She paused to let her words sink in. The servant who brought you drinks at your reception last month. She memorized your security codes while pouring your wine. The janitor who cleaned your offices. He installed listening devices in your walls. The clumsy translator who seemed to struggle with your language. She spoke it better than your own children. The delegates looked at each other with new eyes. How many humans had passed through the station over 3 centuries? Thousands, tens of thousands. Each one had seemed so harmless, so forgettable. We were never inferior, concluded. We simply chose to let you believe we were, because an enemy who underestimates you will never prepare for what you truly are. She bowed her head in the same respectful gesture she had used for 15 years. The Council has 1 solar cycle to accept our terms. I suggest you use that time wisely. She returned to her seat in the observation gallery, sat down, and pulled out a book. As if nothing unusual had happened at all. The Treaty of Equal Standing was signed 6 months later. President stood before the Galaxy Council in the same chamber where humans had once been forbidden to speak. But today, she stood at the central podium, addressing the 12 species as an equal for the first time in history. The delegates watched her with a mixture of respect and confusion. They had expected demands. They had expected revenge. They had expected humans to act as the Council would have acted if positions were reversed. But humanity surprised them one final time. "We do not want your worlds," President said, her voice gentle but firm. "We do not want your resources. We do not want your submission." High Arbiter, who had aged considerably in the past 6 months, leaned forward. "Then what do you want? Why build such a fleet if not to conquer?" "Because we needed to survive." President looked at each delegate in turn. 300 years ago, you invited us to watch your proceedings. You allowed us into your space. And then you voted to destroy our planet and enslave our people without even asking our opinion. She shook her head slowly. "We built our fleet because we knew this day would come eventually. Some species in this chamber would always see us as resources to be harvested rather than people to be respected. Our weapons exist not for conquest but for protection, not for war but for peace." Admiral stood beside her, his face unreadable. "We could have destroyed you," he said quietly. "When our fleet revealed itself, we could have fired. We could have reduced you to ash. We had the power. We had the justification. You had just voted to enslave our entire species." He paused. "But we chose mercy instead. Not because we are weak, not because we are naive, but because we refuse to become what you expected us to become." The ambassador bubbled with something that might have been approval. "You truly are a strange species," Shimmering Tide said. "Most civilizations, when they gain power, use it to dominate. You gain power and ask for trade agreements." President smiled. "Perhaps that is why we survived long enough to sit in your gallery for 300 years. We know how to build without destroying. We know how to grow without conquering. We know that true strength lies not in crushing enemies, but in turning them into friends." She extended her hand toward. The gesture meant nothing to the High Arbiter, but he had learned enough about humans to understand its significance. "We offer peace," President said. "Real peace, trade, cultural exchange, scientific cooperation. We offer a future where your children and our children explore the stars together as equals." Stared at her hand for a long moment. His wings had not buzzed once during the entire ceremony. The proud, arrogant arbiter who had laughed at humans for 200 years seemed smaller somehow, older, tired. Finally, he reached out with one of his appendages and touched her palm. "We accept," he said. The gallery erupted in sounds of celebration from a dozen different species. History had changed. The galaxy would never be the same. 50 years passed. The young Dominion student arrived at the Earth History Museum in Seoul on a rainy afternoon. Her name was difficult for humans to pronounce, so she had chosen a human nickname, Sunny. She was small for her species, with wings that shimmered blue instead of gold and curious eyes that missed nothing. The museum was vast, filled with artifacts from humanity's long journey to the stars. But Sunny had come to see one exhibit in particular, the recreation of the Human Observation Gallery from the old council station. She stood before the small, uncomfortable chairs where human delegates had sat for 300 years. The seats looked so simple, so harmless, so easy to ignore. "It is hard to believe," she said to her guide, "that such a great plan was made in such a small place." Her guide was an elderly human named. He had white hair and kind eyes and walked with the slow dignity of a man who had seen many things. "Great plans do not require great spaces," he said. "They require great patience." Sunny touched one of the chairs gently. "Why did you wait so long? You could have fought back after 50 years, after 100 years. Why wait 3 centuries? Smiled. "Do you know how long it takes to carve a mountain with water?" Sunny shook her head. "Neither do I, but I know that the water does not hurry. It does not grow angry at the mountain for being tall. It simply flows, day after day, year after year, century after century, until one day the mountain has a path through its heart and everyone wonders how it happened." He gestured to the gallery exhibit. "Your ancestors gave us time. They thought our patience was weakness. They thought our silence was submission. Every year they ignored us, we grew stronger. Every insult they spoke, we remembered. Every secret they revealed in front of the harmless observers, we recorded." He chuckled softly. "They gave us 300 years to prepare, and they did not even realize they were doing it." Sunny was quiet for a moment. Then she asked the question that had brought her across the galaxy. "Can you teach me? Can you teach my people to be patient like this?" Looked at her with gentle eyes. Patience cannot be taught like mathematics or science. It must be learned through suffering, through waiting, through choosing to remain calm when every part of you wants to scream. He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "But I can teach you something else, something perhaps more valuable." "What is that?" Turned to look out the museum window. Above them, human and Dominion ships flew together through the rainy sky, their lights blinking in perfect harmony. "I can teach you to never mistake silence for surrender. I can teach you that the quietest voice in the room sometimes has the most to say. I can teach you that true power is not measured by how loudly you roar, but by how wisely you choose when to speak." Sunny looked up at the ships with new understanding. "My grandfather was High Arbiter," she said quietly. "He never recovered from the shame of underestimating humanity. He spent his final years studying your history, trying to understand how he could have been so wrong." "Did he find his answer?" Sunny nodded slowly. He said he had looked at humans and seen only what he expected to see, a primitive species, a silent observer, a harmless pet. He never looked deeper because he was too proud to imagine that something beneath his notice could ever become his equal. She turned to face. "I do not want to make the same mistake. I want to see what is truly there, not what I expect to see." Smiled broadly. It was the same smile that humans had worn for 300 years in the council gallery, the same smile that had confused so many alien observers. Now at last, Sunny understood what it meant. It was the smile of someone who knew exactly how the story would end. "Then you have already learned the most important lesson," said. "Welcome to the family, young one. We have much to teach each other." Outside, the rain continued to fall on Seoul, and somewhere, 300 years of silence finally found its peace.